Okay, let's talk about Purdue. We're continuing with the basketball conversation. Purdue played Oregon this past weekend, I believe on Saturday. Purdue won 65-58 over the Ducks on the road. That lifts the Boilermakers to number 2 in the Big Ten. They were a game behind 7-0 in conference play at Michigan State. Purdue will travel to Michigan State on February 18th. That's a Tuesday night big-time game. Purdue at Michigan State may very well be the battle for control of the top of the Big Ten. But in this game against Oregon, Trey Coffin-Wren had 23 points and 11 rebounds. Braden Smith had 15 points. He had a great game himself. Cam Heide had 9 points from off the bench. And this was a new test. This was a new challenge for Purdue, right? Because you see Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA, they all joined the Big Ten. They come in, and for the first time, Purdue, or really any team that was in the original Big Ten, they're going to have to make a West Coast swing where they go to travel and play 2 games on the road on the West Coast. They played Washington and Oregon effectively back-to-back in the span of just 3 or 4 days there. They don't have to do that again this year because USC and UCLA both come to Purdue. However, you go out to Washington, you go out to Oregon. It's the first time they've had a West Coast swing like that against teams in conference. And Purdue was successful, right? Washington and Oregon, again, new to the Big Ten. It's a pair of low-scoring wins for Purdue over both of those former Pac-12 schools. It's a new challenge, and the Boilermakers were successful. And again, this notion that they're nothing without Zach Edey is being disproven every single week as they continue to rack up wins. Partially, it's because of their play down low, maintaining its success. Trey Kaufman-Wren is a legitimate force between the blocks, and that I think was absolutely exemplified in this game against Oregon. I said in the preview that the battle of the front court could potentially decide the game, right? That the battle in the front court would be decisive. It's Nate Biddle versus Trey Kaufman-Wren, and that's exactly what happened, right? Trey Kaufman-Wren had 23 points and 11 rebounds. Biddle had 18 points and 2 rebounds. Biddle cashed in 2 threes, so really it's only 12 points down low. Trey Kaufman-Wren held the paint captive all night long. It was really just one big man against another. TKR against Biddle. And yeah, Biddle expanded the floor a little bit, got outside of the three-point line, hit some shots from out there. But TKR really down low controlled the blocks, he controlled the paint, and he controlled the game for the Purdue Boilermakers. He was the anchor, and that's really what I saw as the primary beacon of success for the Boilermakers because they did not shoot well at all, right? Purdue really shot poorly in this game. But Trey Kaufman-Wren, because, and both teams did, by the way, but still, they didn't need to shoot well because Trey Kaufman-Wren was so productive down low. Just like Zach Edey. This is a very Zach Edey reminiscent game, and I don't want to just compare Trey Kaufman-Wren to the previous big man down there. But Trey Kaufman-Wren down low, he controlled the game. He had 23 points. He led the team in scoring, but because everyone else around him wasn't shooting well from around the perimeter and from the field, Trey Kaufman-Wren was in there grabbing. Again, he won the rebounding battle between him and Biddle, 11-2. He won the points battle down there, 23-18, really 23-12 when you keep in mind that Biddle had a couple threes. So Trey Kaufman-Wren down low, dominated the blocks, dominated the paint, and dominated the game as a result. He's been a fighter all year long. He averages 17.9 points, 6.5 rebounds, and he's 59% from the field as well. Zach Edey is gone, sure, and he's doing great in Memphis, but Trey Kaufman-Wren is filling much of that void, and the backcourt has been lethal. Now, it wasn't lethal the other night, right? But you look at Trey Kaufman-Wren that's really holding the fort down low, and then you keep in mind that he has a backcourt that's capable of success in their own right. You first look to Braden Smith, right? He takes control of games by the horns. He is absolutely incredible. In this game, he had 15 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. Just 15 points, didn't shoot that well. But Braden Smith, still, 15 is a significant number. I believe it was second on the team, maybe third, top 3 scorer for the Boilermakers. But 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals is also very productive and very efficient in its own right. He's an influential force, Braden Smith is, right? The ball doesn't just flow through the big man anymore because we saw last year when, again, Smith is still an underclassman, Lawyer's still an underclassman. That Purdue team really flowed the offense through Zach Edey. And that was sort of where the narrative arose that the team was just Zach Edey. Zach Edey's only good because he's tall, and Purdue's only good because they have Zach Edey, who is tall. I disagree with both of those notions, but regardless, Zach Edey's gone now, and Purdue's been totally fine. And it's partially because Trey Kaufman-Wren has held the fort down low, but also the ball and offensive possessions don't only flow through the big men anymore. They don't only flow through Trakoff and Wren. Sure, they can, but when the ball gets into Braden Smith's hands, you almost know and you can rest assured feeling like that possession is going to be successful. Possessions can, again, flow through Smith, and he can take over games himself. You have one massive superstar player in the front court in Trakoff and Wren. You have another superstar player in Braden Smith, and usually at least one other guard is popping, right? Whether Fletcher Loyer is having a great game, or maybe it's CJ Cox, right? Or maybe it's Miles Colvin. All of them have taken over games so far this season. You really have a team, a backcourt, a front court, and an overall roster talent, especially on offense, that's immune to bad nights, immune to nights when they aren't shooting very well, right? Because they didn't shoot well in this game, but for the most part, they just didn't need to, right? They have multiple players that can score. They have multiple players that can carry the team. Again, they shot poorly, but it didn't matter because Trakoff and Wren was holding the fort down low. And there's going to be a game where Trakoff and Wren just has having an off night. He's not reeling in those rebounds. He's missing some of those bunny shots. Maybe then that's a spot where Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Miles Colvin, CJ Cox, anybody, Caleb First, pick a player, right? Takes over, and maybe the backcourt shines in that game. If the whole team is playing poorly, the team will lose. But that is effectively true for every single team in the country. Purdue's really built to be immune to poor nights because Trakoff and Wren is very consistent. He's been the most consistent player on this team. If he happens to be playing poorly, then you have a wide array of guards back there that's going to be able to take over the game. Braden Smith has done it in the past. Purdue takes down number 13 Oregon on the road. They win 7 in a row, and they really just show no signs of slowing down from here. Again, Purdue moving forward, they're going to have some easier games. They're going to have some tough ones. They've got Michigan in a week. We'll preview that game on Thursday. That's another ranked opponent for the Boilermakers. But again, this roster is built in a way where it just makes sense. And I've talked about this in videos past, but Purdue across the board, Braden Smith, he's incredible. Possessions can flow through him. Trakoff and Wren, he's incredible. Possessions can flow through him. If either one of them are having an off night, there's someone to pick up the slack most likely. Fletcher Loyer has done it. CJ Cox has done it. Miles Colvin has done it. Cam Heide had 9 points off the bench in this game. This roster is built for success. This roster is built for really effective basketball, especially on offense across the board. And that's great to see because they're doing it even knowing that Zach Edey is no longer a part of the program. Purdue's been playing great. They pick up another big-time ranked win on the road all the way out in Oregon on the West Coast. It was very impressive to me, and I'm very excited to see what Purdue does from here because, again, they're on a 7-game win streak and only ascending from this point.